Coming up here on the San Francisco 49ers Report, Chase Sr. here with you. New Niners defensive coordinator Robert Saleh wants Dre Greenlaw back. Could San Francisco bulk up their offensive line and sign an elite center in NFL free agency? And do the Niners have a future defensive coordinator already on their staff who's currently an assistant and an up-and-coming coach under Saleh? All of that coming your way, but first, I'm here in New Orleans covering Super Bowl 59 between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Coverage from Radio Row right here on the channel coming your way all week. So I naturally have to ask you this. Who you got on Sunday? KC for the Kansas City Chiefs. Will they get that three-peat, or will the Eagles get their revenge after losing to the Chiefs in Super Bowl 57 2 years ago? If that's the case and you're going to go with the Eagles type PHI. Let's begin with talking about Dre Greenlaw, set to be a 2025 unrestricted free agent. A very frustrating season for him because he tore his Achilles first in the Super Bowl this time last year against the Chiefs. The Niners defense just spiraled after that. He tried to come back late in the year, played a half against the Rams in the rain, played a couple of snaps against the Miami Dolphins, but continued to deal with troubles on that bad leg. And now what is his future going to be? If it's up to Fred Warner, if it's up to Nick Bosa and Robert Saleh, Dre Greenlaw, number 57, will be back in a Niners uniform in 2025, but of course that's easier said than done. Warner said this over the weekend from the Pro Bowl games, quote, "Since the day it all ended, it's been my goal for Greenlaw to be my running mate and for him to return to the Niners." And then Nick Bosa, also partaking in the Pro Bowl games that nobody watched, said that he will and should do what he has to do in free agency, especially at this point of his career, given his age, the injury problems coming off that Achilles injury. But Bosa also said, "We want him back, and so does Robert Saleh." Warner, Bosa, they have spoken with Saleh via FaceTime and on the phone. They can sense that Saleh is really excited about his reunion with the Niners, and they're really excited to have him back as well. And when the Niners hired him, and they gave him top-of-the-market money, arguably becoming the highest-paid defensive coordinator in football, San Francisco did that knowing that he comes back with some chops. He's been an accomplished defensive coordinator. He's been a head coach. Nearly got that Jags job if it wasn't for the Liam Cohen U-turn at the last moment. So the Niners gave him bread. It signaled that they're all in, and they're also giving him full say over defensive personnel, coaching personnel, and, of course, some play calling and scheme stuff because that's what he's brought to the Niners to do. And if Robert Saleh wants Greenlaw back, I think there's a pretty good chance that if the price is right, if the contract fits what the Niners are looking for, what they're planning for, that Greenlaw could come back and be retained by San Francisco. What Dre Greenlaw brings this defense is something so special. He has been called by his teammates as the engine and the enforcer of that defensive unit. He brings the Niners physicality, speed, and swagger, where the opposition always has to keep an eye out for where number 57 is on the field because he's a game wrecker. He's great as a coverage linebacker, but he's so good at eyeing the gap, shooting the gap, and stopping the run. Him and Fred Warner formed to be one of the top linebacking duos in the NFL, which makes that second level of that Niners defense so much better, and his absence so glaring. He gets hurt in the Super Bowl, the Niners defense falls apart. The Niners don't have him all year. They're bad defensively. He comes back for a half. They shut down the Rams, and he was all over the field. And so that's why I think it's important that if the price is right, the Niners bring Greenlaw back because of how important of a role he plays with this defense. And the big question, of course, becomes how much is he going to demand in free agency? You look at sites like Pro Football Focus and others. They have Greenlaw going back to the Niners 1 year, $9 to $10 million, something along that range. And if the Niners can get him at that price tag, it's pretty damn good. The NFL knows how good of a player he is, but they're also afraid of giving him big-time dollars given the injury history that he has. He's drafted out of Arkansas, and coming out of Arkansas, career got off to a pretty solid start as far as injuries go, right? You know, he plays 16 games, 11 starts year one, 13 games, 11 starts year two, but then year three, it's 3 games, 2 starts. 2022 and 2023, he had more than 100 tackles in each of those seasons, and he played 15 games with 15 starts. Then he pops that Achilles, and he only plays in 2 games in 2024. So you're looking at a player who throughout his career has been banged up a lot, and he's missed a lot of time because of injuries. And because of that, I think teams might be scared to give him multiple years and a lot of money on that contract, which could allow the Niners to bring him back on that 1 year, cost-controlled, prove-it type of deal, and he could really help this defensive unit under Saleh in 2025. And that's what I'm looking forward to happening. And my dream linebacker trio for the Niners, Fred Warner's already under contract. I think San Francisco should either restructure that. They can open up $12 to $13 million over the next 3 years, or shoot, even though he's in his late 20s, he's still playing at an elite level. You want to give him a contract extension. That, too, could free up some money. You bring Greenlaw back on a 1-year deal between, let's call it, $8 to $10 million, and then Saleh brings with him Jamie and Sherwood. Playmaking, athletic linebacker who's an excellent athlete, has a defensive back background that shows off in the way that he plays, and that unit at the linebacker position, which was a weakness in 2024, immediately overnight with 2 moves, becomes a massive strength to really help fortify your defense. Before we continue to push forward on today's show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm looking around Radio Row. You see former players. You see other media members. You see content creators. You see people who cover the Niners. You see celebrities. We're going to bring all those types of people here on the show, whether it's on set, if we're going to put up long-form content, short-form content. Just lock us in. Hit that sub button. And also, this is your home for elite Niners offseason coverage. Free agency and the draft. That's a big reason why we're approaching 157,000 subs right here on the Niners Report. Going to talk Drew Dalman coming up around the corner, but first, let's give a shout out to our friends at Game Time. Thank you so much to them for partnering up with us, making today's show possible. If you plan to come down to New Orleans, hit me up. Would love to hang out here with you. But if you plan on going to the game, download the Game Time app. Create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, and get $20 off. Terms apply, first purchase only. Game Time specializes in last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed, and prices drop as the event gets closer. So if you're coming down to New Orleans for Super Bowl 59, you want to hit Bourbon Street, Canal Street, all the other touristy things that New Orleans has to offer, World War II Museum, and you haven't gotten tickets yet, that's fine. You can wait up until the start of the event, and prices will actually go down because Game Time hits you with the last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. I also love how you can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And Game Time also has a new feature called Game Time Picks, where curation makes it easier to find tickets to the events that you want to go to without having to sort through thousands and thousands of tickets. Not just an app for sporting events, by the way. You can go to concerts, comedy shows, theater events, and a whole lot more. Flash deals, zone deals, lowest price guaranteed, where if you find a lower price elsewhere, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download Game Time, use that code CHATSPORTS, get $20 off. Terms apply, first purchase only. We move forward on today's show. Remember a few weeks ago when I said here on the Niners Report that my dream free agent target for San Francisco was Atlanta Falcons center Drew Dalman? Well, in the week since then, there's really started to have traction and buzz that the Niners could actually pursue him in NFL free agency. You want to make me the general manager? Hey, you can do that. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, you need some help, certainly let me know. I think I know a little bit about player evaluation and team building strategy. Anywho, I think this would be a great move, and for a multitude of reasons. I know a lot of people will say, do you want to pay a center that much money? The Niners haven't really invested in the offensive line. There's no way that they would pay Drew Dalman top of the market money. Well, look on your screen right here. Under this Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch regime, they have invested in centers before. They gave Weston Richburg a 5-year, $47.5 million contract. He was an excellent player before he had to retire due to injury concerns. And then after that, Alex Mack got signed to a 3-year, $14.8 million contract. He then decided to retire, and then the Niners went the route of Jake Brendel, who I thought was a career journeyman for a reason, and him being a journeyman is a big reason why last year he was one of the lowest-graded centers in the National Football League. If the Niners can sign Drew Dalman, though, this would check off a massive need for this football team this offseason. They need to improve the offensive line and the defensive line, specifically at that offensive line spot, left guard, center, and right tackle. You sign Drew Dalman, you can improve left guard and right tackle in free agency or in the draft, and he would be a great fit for your offense. He's an athletic, mobile, cerebral center who's an elite run blocker, good enough in pass pro with a better anchor compared to Jake Brendel. He fits the scheme. Zach Robinson was the Falcons' offensive coordinator last year. He's a Sean McVay disciple. Dalman's only 26 years old. There's some cool nuggets and ties. His dad, Chris, was a good player for the Niners, and Dalman grew up in Salinas, California, in NorCal, and he went to Stanford, so he's familiar with the area. Could we see a homecoming of him coming back to NorCal and the Bay Area? In 2024, he had an overall Pro Football Focus grade of 78.8. The pass blocking grade was in the green, but you'd like to see it a little bit higher at 66.6. Had a run blocking grade, which was excellent, of 79.8. Mobile, athletic, getting out in space on those pull blocks to that second level. Kyle Shanahan needs elite center play for his offense to be successful, or at least to be the elite unit that it can be. And he needs a center who can run block and is comfortable getting out in space. Dalman also, despite that lower pass blocking grade of 66.6, did only allow 2 sacks, 1 quarterback hit, and 10 pressures. All of those numbers so much better than Jake Brendel. The bottom line here, Niners can't move forward with Brendel as their center. Maybe the knee tendonitis and the knee problems in the offseason played a role in him struggling last year. But look, even though he was a Pro Bowl alternate his first year as a starter, I just don't think that he is good enough for a team that has playoff and Super Bowl aspirations. Sign Drew Dalman. It's a no-brainer. We round out with this. Do the Niners have a future defensive coordinator candidate already on their staff? And could it be KJ Wright, who eventually replaces Robert Saleh? He is currently on this staff and has been on this staff for, the last 2 years, currently a defensive quality control coach. He was a 4th-round pick by the Seattle Seahawks and was a great linebacker for those Legion of Boom defenses alongside some excellent players, including Richard Sherman. He was a Pro Bowler in 2016, won that Super Bowl with that Seahawks team that made it to back-to-back rings, and then Pete Carroll decided to throw it at the 1-yard line, not give it to Marshawn Lynch. They lost that latter Super Bowl. But Wright is starting to gain some traction here in notoriety because of the work that he did in 2024, but he also handled a lot of the coaching duties representing the Niners at the Senior Bowl. And there were some great clips of him running around, fired up, getting players pumped up, slapping them on the helmet, on the shoulder pad after they made a good play. He was handling some interview responsibility. Shout out to Steph Sanchez for doing a good interview with KJ Wright. You can check that interview out on her YouTube channel, on our social media pages. He sounds the part of a coach. He looked the part of a coach. The Niners are very high on him. Robert Saleh looks as though he's going to retain him. And what has Fred Warner talked about the Niners needing? Energy on that sideline from that defensive coordinator spot. What was the report a couple of weeks ago that the Niners were looking for in a defensive coordinator? Juice and energy on the sideline. KJ Wright has that. Accomplished player, worked his way up in the coaching sphere. Now he's starting to do some good things where people are really starting to take notice. And I think that he can really be a quality coach that the Niners can groom and develop. And then if Saleh were to leave next year, maybe after that, you could have one of his replacements in-house who knows the scheme, knows the organization, has familiarity with his coaching staff, most importantly, is a talented coach. Before we dip on out of here, be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior. Same handle on both platforms. We're live all week from New Orleans. Be sure to keep it locked to our coverage.